Okay, guys, we're live. What's up? Welcome to webinar two on outreach. So maybe just quickly, we could just go around because I know some people weren't here the first time, some people were here. So maybe we could just go around the room. Everyone could just say their name and the school they go to, and also if you run anything cool since we last met, maybe you could just share a little bit about it. Yeah, someone who wants to start.
I will.
Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Toby. I'm a sophomore. I go to Indiana University. And since last webinar, we were able to get the student leaders from all three Jewish organizations on campus to kind of meet and discuss how we can be more collaborative together. And then we hosted a Kumsitz at a friend's house on this past Shabbos. And we got 9 students who normally don't necessarily feel like come to Shabbos at all to help like make food on Thursday. And then we did a nice Kumsitz session on Friday night after the Shabbos meal.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. Okay, who's next?
I'll go. I'm Evan. I'm a senior at MIT. And this past Friday night, we always have Friday night services at 6 o'clock, no matter when Shabbat starts. So at 5 o'clock, I led a learning session, fairly informal, and about 10 or 15 people came who normally would be like, sleeping instead in that 2-hour period, and they took up and learned. It was really nice, went really well.
Cool. Wow, thanks. Okay, who's next? Amy, you want to go?
I guess I could go. I'm Amy. I go to UCSD, and sadly, like the quarter system this quarter has not been so conducive to like being able to host an event that people would be able to come to, because like the school year started right before all the Yom Tovim this year, and people are still getting over it. And it's about to end. People are out of town this weekend. They're going to be out of town next weekend. So sadly, I have not had the opportunity to plan anything.
Okay. Do you know when does the next quarter start?
Quarter starts in January, and I'm hoping like I'll be able to plan a meeting probably the week like after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But like I'm really hoping. I've been trying to plan this with people for the whole quarter, and nobody can ever go. But
okay, great. Well, hopefully something will happen soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Alyssa, do you wanna go?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Alyssa. I go to USF, a sophomore, and we have a lot of like ideas in the works. We just all got back from the Chabad Shabbaton in New York this past weekend, so things have been a little crazy down here on our end.
When did you wait? You were in New York this past?
Yeah, I was in New York this past Shabbos. Yeah.
Wow. When did you get back?
I got back at like 8:30 this morning.
Okay.
It's been a long like 48, 72 hours.
Okay.
So,
well, thanks for joining the webinar.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Aliza?
Hi guys, I'm Aliza. I am a sophomore at King University in New Jersey. It's in North New Jersey. We're going to have a Thanksgiving event this week. That's exciting with all the Jewish faculty, so that's supposed to be a big deal.
Cool. That's what's the plan for the event?
What's the plan?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? I just didn't hear.
Yeah.
Not sure yet. I know, to be completely honest.
Okay, cool. Well, can't wait to hear about it. Okay, well, so thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for sharing. So this webinar is supposed to be about outreach. So I guess before we start, maybe let's kind of just define what outreach is. Some people tend to have different definitions of what it might mean. Maybe we could just go around. Not everyone has to participate if they don't want to. Hey Joel, what's up? Not everyone has to give a definition, but how would you define outreach?
I mean, Go for it.
Go ahead, really. It's fine.
I guess I just break it down really simply to just creating personal and professional connections with other students and other student groups on campus.
Okay, so just making connections with fellow Jews. Okay, cool. Thank you. Amy, what were you gonna say?
Pretty much the exact same thing. So
Okay,
just
cool.
like reaching out, yeah. Making
Okay, great.
connections.
Okay, anyone else have any different perception of how they would define outreach? Wait, Joel, are you speaking? We can't hear you. Okay, so I'm guessing Joel had a different definition for outreach. We can all speculate what it is. Okay, anyone else? Evan, Alyssa, Elisa?
I think you can draw a distinction between like outreach and kiruv. I don't think they're necessarily the same thing. Whereas
Okay.
the goal of kiruv might be like to make people religious, whereas like, and that's like how certain groups, aka like Chabad or Aish, would define outreach. Whereas there's also outreach just getting people to like come to Shabbat dinner or be involved in the Jewish community in some way who are not involved otherwise.
Okay, good. Okay, so basically making the distinction between kind of forcing something on someone versus giving an entryway for someone to
Right.
make their own decisions. Okay,
Not
good.
forcing it's not forcing, just like more agenda driven outreach as opposed to personal agenda outreach.
Got it. Okay, great. Good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I just thought it was important to kind of feel like we're all on the same page. So we have a huge spectrum. On the one hand, we have people like, you know, everyone's opinion is more than welcome. So we have people like Toby and Amy who would say outreach is basically at the end of the day just kind of like personally connecting, making sure that there's a Jewish person who's involved that the rest of the Jews who aren't necessarily involved know about. Then there's someone who then there's like the way Evan described that there's a huge spectrum of, you know, kind of this more agenda-driven outreach or quote unquote kiruv that would really just be focused on making sure that these Jews are going to be religious or give them as many opportunities to live a religious lifestyle. Or maybe not as much, maybe just keeping like in that open door and giving them the opportunities and the resources, but kind of them choosing their own path of how they want to live their life religiously, either, you know, doing quote unquote everything or just doing some things. Okay, good. So I'm gonna, if you have the source sheet, the link for it, then open it. If not, I'm just gonna send it. It's like I just messaged it to the group, so you should be able to click on it on the side. So there are a few ways that we could have this discussion in terms of what is outreach all about and why are we doing it. So there are a few typical reasons that are given that we did list on the source sheet. But off the top of your heads, why do you think there's an imperative in Judaism? Like, why does this concept of kiruv or outreach, why does that exist at all? Either sources from the Torah or common sense.
I guess like in order to seem welcoming, kind. It's like outreach shows kindness. It shows that you care about others.
Okay.
And that
so,
you'll go out of your way to make them, yeah.
Okay, good. So maybe from like an aspect of chesed in the Torah, that we have an imperative as Jews to live kind lives, and part of living a kind life is showing Jews as much as we can about Judaism.
Yeah.
I think you have something good, like you want to share it with people. Like if you have like a big Thanksgiving dinner, you invite everybody to your Thanksgiving dinner. So like if you have Judaism, you think Judaism is good, you want to share it with everybody around you.
Okay, so is that the same thing as what Amy's saying, or is it different?
I think it's different because saying like you're just reaching out to be kind, whereas I'm saying like you have something to share with somebody else.
Okay. So maybe on the one hand, you have Amy saying something like chesed, and you're saying kind of out of like v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, cool, great. Any other reasons that people could think of why this concept of kiruv exists or outreach in the Jewish community?
I think on a campus like MIT, where there's only like 200 or 300 Jews, like having reaching out to people builds stronger community and allows us to have more like Jewish friends and Jewish activities and events on campus where people are involved. So like it benefits everyone when we reach out to people who are not necessarily so involved all the time.
So kind of the reason why we should do outreach is so we could grow our community.
Right. Have stronger community.
Yeah. Great. Okay, good. Anyone disagree with that? Anyone have any other possible reasons why we should do it or why we should do it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we have the opposite problem on my campus. We have the 7th largest Jewish population of any public university, and yet we maybe get 200 or 300 students engaged in one of 3 in like any of the 3 Jewish organizations on campus. So I think part of it is just like making sure that when there are like anti-Semitic remarks on campus, that like our base is not engaged and isn't united in creating a statement that says that this isn't okay. So for us, it's really more about making sure that we're reaching out to people so that our voices are heard, whether or not people are comfortable being the forefront of that voice, but really making sure that the Jews themselves, Jews especially on our campus and make up such a large percentage, are able to come together cohesively and articulate one strong core message.
Okay, so outreach is like educating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Thanks. That's really cool perspective. And does anyone else have something to say? Okay, great. So yeah, so I think that there's truth in what everyone said, right? Either it's maybe out of chesed, or maybe it's out of love, or maybe it's out of educating, or maybe it's out of growing in the community. I think that these are all true, and different commentators over the years, throughout Jewish history, have kind of basically touched upon all these reasons as a reason to do outreach in one way or another. What's interesting is that there are a couple of reasons that no one did touch on. One being, and sorry, I sent a new link for this source sheet, so you should be able to open it now. I know some of you were having trouble. So if you look at like the orange box at the top, so the reasons that no one gave were, there's a mitzvah, a commandment of the Torah, to do tochacha, to rebuke your fellow Jew. So just that is definitely a reason that people have given over the years to do outreach. But it's just interesting to know why no one kind of thought to mention it. Probably because it just doesn't sound so nice. That you're not going to get another Jewish person to want to be more involved in Judaism if you yell at them. So even though it's a reason that has been given, and it's, I guess, just important for us to be educated, and I know that people have suggested that as a reason, but yeah, that's not something that we kind of usually look at so much. Another kind of related reason to that no one gave is that there's a pasuk. It says lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, that you shouldn't really stand on your friend's blood, and if you don't allow another Jewish person the opportunity to learn more about Judaism, then you're basically, quote unquote, standing on their blood. You're causing them to live an unfulfilled life, which is also kind of like a more, a harsher tone and a harsher reason for why we should do outreach. So we should just kind of be aware that those are other reasons why in Jewish history there has been such a concept of kiruv or outreach. But what all of you said are kind of like the key reasons that I think a lot of people do kind of hold on to, because they're equally as true, and they're also much more powerful and meaningful for people to connect to. Okay, so all that being said, so those are all the historic reasons of why we're told that we should do outreach and we should reach out to fellow Jews, and these really nice things. But for the learning part that I wanted to do today, I wanted to take a different angle. So we have 2 sources here. This one, maybe want to volunteer to read the first source. It's actually from this last week's Torah portion.
I guess I could do it.
Okay, great.
All right. So Genesis 12:1-3. Now that the Lord said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto the land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and I make thy name great, and be thou a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and him that curseth thee will I curse. And in thee shall all the families of this earth be blessed.
Okay, great. Thanks, Amy. Okay, so I'm going to ask a broad question. These are the first psukim, the first verses from this last week's parsha. what are the messages that we're supposed to learn from these few psukim? Message. There's a lot of possible answers, but yeah, what do you guys think?
Well, like in the beginning of it, when it kind of is saying to like, because this is relating kind of to like this past week's Parsha, but to like for Avram to leave his entire family and what he knows, that like we should take the initiative to kind of leave our comfort zone and like reach out to the people who you might not think would be interested. So that's one aspect of it.
Okay, good. I really like that. What else?
Also related to this week's Parsha, one thing that we talked a lot about was this idea of when you leave and when Avram leaves, like what he knows behind, and when you're leaving on a journey, what is it that you've built up that you want to return home to? So that's something that we've also kind of talked a lot about, especially at Aish, about like building the community that we know that we must leave at some point, but the community that we at some point want to come back to.
Okay, good. Wow. Thanks. Okay, anything else that this might be, that this kind of tells us? Okay, so something that I was actually thinking about that I thought was pretty powerful, especially in light of the election and in light of kind of the whole country falling apart a little bit. These verses are powerful because what they talk about is how a great nation is going to come out of Abraham, out of Abraham. And what's probably most powerful to think about sometimes, just to reflect on, is how many people have actually come through Abraham in this world. The three biggest religions in the world all kind of have their start from Abraham. And just to kind of think, so, we could take that and focus on that for a second, but maybe just to focus on the Jewish people. It's important at the end of the day when people are giving different reasons for why we do outreach, whether it's for kindness, because we want to show them the way we experience Judaism, or out of love, because we feel like they should be living a fulfilled life like we believe we're living. At the end of the day, it's really easy to get caught up in this game of I know a lot and they don't know as much, so let me help them. But what this verse kind of teaches us is that we're all really equal and that we're all from the same source, and kind of brings us back to this unity, that we're all one people. And maybe interestingly, no one really gave this answer either, is that why should we do outreach? Maybe it's because we're all one people, and as one people, we should all just be there to support one another, and we should all kind of be there for one another as much as possible. So just this level of unity, it's kind of important to realize that we all come from the same source. And so we should all be there because we're all, cousins, brothers, sisters. Yeah, does anyone else have anything to share or add on that? Okay, great. So maybe let's move on to the next source. Does anyone want to volunteer to read that?
I will.
Awesome. Thanks, Alyssa.
So Gemara Shabbos 127a, Rabbi Yochanan said, welcoming in guests is as great as going early to learn in the Beit Midrash, because the Mishnah teaches both of them side by side. Rabbi Dimi Menchadrab says that welcoming in guests is greater than going to learn in the Beit Midrash, because welcoming in guests is listed first in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says it is greater to host guests than to greet the Shekhinah, as Avram does with Hashem.
Okay, thanks. So what's most powerful about this Gemara is that there's clearly a progression. Everyone agrees at the very least that welcoming in guests is as good as learning Torah. But then it kind of gets better and better. People think it's it goes up to being that welcoming in guests is the most important thing, because it's this it's tantamount to it's greater than greeting Hashem's presence. So just to kind of think about this source for a second, I guess two questions. One, why is it so important to invite guests? Why is this really important in our tradition? And two, is inviting guests the same thing as outreach?
Well, I think to answer the second question, inviting guests is the same thing as outreach. At least to me, I don't really see a separation or a difference between them. If anybody else does see a difference, I'd love to hear why. As to answering the first question you asked, I'm not so sure. Again, I'd love to hear what other people have to say.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, first, can you repeat the first question? I haven't answered the second, but I don't remember the first one.
Okay, yeah. Just a general question. Why is inviting guests so important, and why is it such an important part of our tradition?
Okay, well, I'll answer the second question first. So the reason that outreach is not necessarily the same as inviting guests is because it's like how a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. Like, you can do other forms of outreach other than just inviting a guest. Just meeting somebody new can be considered outreach, because sometimes people are just not at that point where they're going to feel comfortable being invited for something like a meal or like a kumsitz, like what Toby did. But I guess it could be considered a form of outreach. And the reason that inviting guests and everything is so important is because it's a way of spreading a tradition and making the community feel like one, which is also really important, to feel united and to feel like an extended family.
Okay,
which
wow.
is part of yeah.
Wow, thanks. That was really good. I really liked the square or the rectangle and the circle one. That was really powerful. Yeah, I agree. So if inviting guests isn't the same thing as outreach, then or isn't always the same thing as outreach, then what are some other ways to do outreach if not by inviting guests?
I guess just going out there, at UCSD, they have this thing tabling on Library Walk.
Okay.
Is you just set up a table and you pass out flyers. You try to get people to come ask you questions or talk to people about what you're doing. That is a form of outreach. You're not really doing anything. You're just spreading the word, but you're meeting new people and you're making connections, which ultimately is what outreach is. It's not drawing people in. It's going out and meeting people, getting connections. So anything like that, just meeting people, going out, spreading the word, I guess, is outreach more so than just inviting people to an event and having people come to an event and then meeting them.
Wow, that was deep. Thanks, Amy. Yeah, did someone else wanna also comment on the source or?
Kind of going off of your first question, it's important to Jews, in our history and in our traditions, that Abraham always opened up his tent, that all of our great forefathers always opened up their tents and were welcoming and of strangers. I mean, the Pesach story, we open the door, we open our doors and our homes for anyone who's hungry, who needs to come eat. It's part of our tradition to just be very welcoming. Yet mostly to Jews, but also to people who are looking to experience just really anything. And so I think it really just speaks to our tradition and our biblical history that it's our responsibility as Jews to make sure that our doors are always open and that we actively are seeking those out who can come and make our tables a little bit more diverse and who can share different stories and different perspectives on their lives.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have anything to say on the source? Okay, yeah, so maybe just to quickly sum up the sources that we looked at so far. So the first source, there were a few messages that people wanted to say. One that it spoke about taking initiative, how sometimes we have to be the leaders and leave our comfort zone. Two, also about teaches us maybe about building our home and kind of thinking about the home that we want to return to. And then three, also talking about unity, recognizing that we're all from the same people, and we're all from the same source. Okay, and then the second source, we spoke about why welcoming in guests is so important, and a lot of really interesting points that people made. At the end of the day, that it's so valuable because welcoming guests is really a part of, it really goes back to the very beginning of who we are as a people. And recognizing also that welcoming guests into our home, even though it's very important, it's not the only thing to do outreach. You know, there are broader ways to do outreach. Even seeing someone on the street who identify, and if people could identify you as a Jewish person, and act nice to another person, that's also a form of outreach. Okay, so maybe now we can segue to the second half of the webinar, which is the more practical. So after kind of viewing the kind of the reasons why we do these kinds of things, why it's important to do outreach in the world and on our campuses, how do we do it? So first, before we make it a broader discussion, does anyone want to share any experiences that they've had that they feel like they've really been able to do outreach on their campus in any way? It could be this year, it could be previous years.
So one thing that we do in the beginning of each year is we kind of compile an entire list of all the new freshmen that come to our school, and then as at least for Chabad board, we kind of make it our mission to message all of them and just introduce ourselves and kind of just be if you need anything at all throughout the year, by all means feel free to message us, whether it be finding times for Shabbat or you just don't know where something is on campus, just to get them acclimated a little more. So in a way it's kind of outreach, but more in the sense of not necessarily of forcing them to come, just telling them about it so then they can choose whether or not they want to do it.
Okay, so kind of telling students that there's an open invitation always in the Jewish community.
Right, exactly.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
One of the things that we try to do at MIT is that we try to take events that are generally considered Orthodox events, like Sudat Shlishi on Shabbat, and have something there that would encourage people who are less involved in the community to come, like an interesting speaker or something like that, and do a lot of outreach over Facebook or personally, so that we try to, I guess, broaden the group of Hillel regulars, because it's easy to kind of get lost at a Shabbat dinner or a bigger event, but getting people to come to a more personal event like a Shishi with 50 or 20 people as opposed to 80 is a very effective form of outreach, at least for us.
Okay, wow, thanks. Anyone else want to share about personal things they've done on their campus or what they've seen on their campus?
Yeah, so we've actually done a lot of outreach to freshmen. We understand that our freshman population, if they don't get involved sort of kind of right away, before Chagim, before at least before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that they won't really stay involved just because they haven't experienced how Chagim away from their families and stuff like that, and they don't have a community to form yet. So we've actually done outreach directly in the dorms, and we've done we've catered in kosher meals into the dorms and done Erev Rosh Hashanah dinners and family dinners and Shabbat dinners and things like that to really make sure that we're meeting the freshmen where they're at. And that's helped them then kind of transition to coming to Hillel or Chabad or whatever organization that we're hoping for them to find their Jewish home in.
Cool. I love that. Anyone else have something to share? Okay, great. So maybe let's start talking about the practicals. So a few of you kind of shared about how to kind of put your foot in the door at the beginning of the year to make sure that students know that they have a place to turn. But let's start from the very beginning. How do you find Jews on your campus? How do you know who's Jewish to be able to invite them?
Kane, we're the Jewish Culture Club, so we're non-discriminatory. We're open to all people. We're open to Jews and non-Jews who want to learn more about Jewish culture and Jewish people. And I think at this point, that's kind of necessary for our club, at least, to have open doors for everybody. We're And then you see, for the most part, really, like, once you open your doors to everybody, only the people who really are interested stick around. So while we do have a couple of non-Jews that do stick around and are part of our Hillel, or our Jewish Culture Club, for the most part, the kids who stick around are kids who are Jewish or non-affiliated, or are there because, like, their grandparents want them to get more involved, or their parents want them to get more involved.
Okay, so the kids that are Jewish, how do you know they're Jewish?
Kind of keeping the door open for everyone.
Sorry, what was the last thing you just said?
Like keeping the door open for everyone.
Okay, so the students that you said that you said stick around for the most part are Jewish. How do you know that they're Jewish? Is it because they told you, or defining characteristics about them?
No, because we ask. We're like, "Are you Jewish?" And they're like, "Yeah."
Okay. Have people done that on their campus in a more public forum? This is more, I guess, a Chabad kind of a thing, but kind of standing and tabling and just asking people if they're Jewish.
Kind of. We have something called Bull Market, which happens every Wednesday, and it's pretty much a showcase for any like local businesses that want to come out and promote for them, or clubs on campus if they have like events going on or they're trying to recruit people. So we have like a sign-up sheet, kind of. It's like a form they fill out where like they put their name, whether or not they're Jewish, what they're interested in, like ideas of programming that they would want to see, stuff like that. So it's kind of like blatantly asking, "Are you Jewish?" but not really.
And more like subtly, blatantly asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Have other people done that on their campus? Is this common?
Go for it.
Evan, yeah.
I mean, what we do is our Hillel every fall before Rosh Hashanah, they set up a table, and I did this the year I was on Hillel board. We set up a table in like the main artery of campus where like everyone passes at least once a day, and with like a big sign that says Rosh Hashanah, and like give out honey sticks, and like we don't have to ask people. Like when people are walking down the hallway and they look and then they look back, like you know that they're like they recognize something, and then you just like you say hi and then you start a conversation with them, and so they kind of like identify themselves to us, and then we have our Hillel keeps a list of like generally they make contact with over 90% of the Jews on campus every year.
Wow.
So we don't have a lot of Jews, but our Hillel is very effective at getting people. So between Hillel staff doing a lot of work and tabling and having people like kind of identify themselves, we do a very good job finding people at least. Yeah.
That's cool. Wow. And so, Toby, what were you gonna say?
We do a lot of the same. So because we're such a large public university, we get records from the high school clubs and from all the different youth group organizations. They give them to us. Hillel has a really, really big spreadsheet. There also, when students sign up for housing, they identify if they're Jewish, or like when they fill out roommate preferences. So then the university sends them all to Hillel, and then Hillel will like distribute them to all the other organizations on campus. We also usually find out a lot during birthright signups when we table. So it's like sort of an indirect way of saying like free trip to Israel for anyone who's Jewish, and that way we're able to see like who is like, some students are like, yeah, I'm in the process of converting, or like some people are more interested. So then we kind of get like a wider spreadsheet. It's kind of creepy, but like we have like a spreadsheet with all the Jews on campus.
Right. I always say that, like, if people really knew what was like in the behind the scenes of so many of like the Jewish organizations, people would be so freaked out by like.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Fine. So a lot of you kind of blatantly, subtly blatantly, or actually blatantly, have found a way on your campus to kind of ask if students are Jewish, or maybe they volunteer the information at the beginning of the year. Okay. What about like walking around on campus? How would you know, or is there a way to know if someone's Jewish? Okay. Joel says no.
I think if they're a guy, like if they're wearing a kippah or like tzitzit, or if like I feel like girls, like there are plenty of girls who wear skirts that aren't Jewish, but like you can tell when somebody's Orthodox, that's for sure. Like I know there's one guy on campus that he was walking around with like his tzitzit out and a kippah, and like I ran over to him and I was like, "You Jewish? Like you should come join the Jewish Culture Club." Like mind you, like I'm with like my piercings and my jeans, so he's like, "What? That's like so weird." But so I think non-affiliated Jews, there is really no way to tell. Like, you can't just assume some people, like, also because, like, there's so many different kinds of Jews. But I think if with Orthodox Jews, you're able to tell.
Okay, so you're Orthodox. Okay, I hear that, right? Because if you define as like a like an Orthodox person as a guy, the odds are you're wearing tzitzit or yarmulke or something like that. Girls who are identified as Orthodox tend to have a more, I guess, identified dress code. Okay, I hear that. Alyssa, what were you gonna say?
Oh, by us, at least for the guys, it's a little harder for girls, but it's like a big thing on our campus that a lot of the guys like wear Jewish star necklaces like blatantly out.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's one way. Some people wear kippahs, but that's like one of the main identifiers, or they'll like come up to you because they've heard the word of mouth from like another Jewish friend being like, "Oh, you're Jewish?" It's like, "Yeah, I am." So like that kind of happens also.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Could people relate to that on their campus also?
Yeah, definitely. We also we use a lot of the Greek system, especially during rush events, like at API, ZBT, AFI, and SDT.
Okay.
We have at least one Hillel representative from there at all times.
Oh, wow.
It's like usually it's someone who's Greek. So like I'll go to events and just kind of like I'm just there to like mingle and interact with people, but then I'll ask the social chair like, who is this? And they'll give me like their spreadsheets and we'll kind of compare notes and like again kind of creepy, but like we're able to see like if they're potentially rushing like API, they're almost always Jewish, but we might not have them in our records, so we kind of like figure out who's Jewish.
Okay.
Pretty creepy.
Right. I think we've established that this is a pretty creepy business.
I have kind of the opposite experience of Elisa, which is that because I am a guy who wears a kippah, I have people who are not necessarily affiliated Jews come over to me and like they'll like ask me questions or like say Shabbat Shalom or like things like that, and then I'm able to like meet people that way. And also at MIT, I'm in API and we actually do like as good as our Hillel is at finding Jews, we do a better job in API. So a lot of that, and we share that information with Hillel and vice versa, so that we can kind of like find everyone.
Okay. That's really interesting. It's a kind of like the way you're dressing, kind of like being like the flagship Jew, so people know if they're Jewish, they could say, "Oh, by the way, I'm Jewish also." That's interesting. Okay. Any other ways to find Jews on campus?
I think going back to like the Jewish star, like any Jewish paraphernalia, like I one time was walking out of the bookstore and I saw a girl walking in the bookstore wearing an IDF t-shirt. So I was like, "You're Jewish, right?" She was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Okay, give me your phone number. Like, you'll come to the next Hill meeting." But like, I think just keeping an eye out for like any Jewish signs or symbols, like even the Hamsa necklace that a lot of girls wear. There's plenty of like, just like they think they're pretty. They like it's a pretty necklace. But keeping your eye open for like Jewish symbols wherever you see it.
Okay. What about names? Have people found that identifying Jews through like different various names, either like a first name, like an Israeli name, or a last name that's clearly Jewish sounding? Have people found that to be effective? Like sitting in class and you hear the teacher call on Doron, who's like never come to any kind of Jewish event. Has anyone had that kind of experience?
Yeah. I mean, there was a guy named Boaz who was like, they were doing attendance and all of a sudden they're like, Boaz. And I was just like, hi. And then immediately after class, I was like, hi, you're Boaz, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, do you want to come to Shabbos with me? Like, so it worked. Now he comes to Aish every weekend.
Whoa, cool. That's awesome. Has anyone else had a similar experience?
My freshman year, there was a girl on my floor who like mentioned in passing that she was born in Israel, and like she doesn't have a particularly Jewish name, but like we said that, and then we like a lot of me and my friends like started hanging out with her. She actually became our Hillel president. So like it worked out pretty well. But she said that if we hadn't like seen that when we first met her, like and gotten her involved in the Jewish community, she probably never would have done anything. So
wow, that's so cool. Okay, anyone else? Joel, I'm really sorry you can't speak, Joel. I really feel really bad about it. But yeah, Eliza or Alyssa? Joel, we can't hear you.
I mean, it's happened to me once that I met somebody and he was like, "My name's Asher," and I was like, you Jewish? And he was like, yeah, but I think that was just like a random chance encounter. Like, it could happen, I guess. It's a good thing to keep an eye out for, but hasn't happened.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, Alyssa, are you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say it doesn't really happen so much here on my campus. I mean, it's like you might hear a name and you're like, it's a possibility, but like you're not sure just because it's not like super Jewish sounding.
Okay.
But not too common here.
Okay. As maybe just like as a bookend to identifying Jews on campus, I wouldn't recommend this, but there was an article in the New York Times a few years ago about Chabad shluchim in New York City, and I think in Central Park, that go around, asking Jewish people to either put on tefillin or to shake a lulav and esrog on Sukkot. And they actually did say that they found it really helpful using like physical characteristics as defining things, like looking at like larger noses and things like that, which is really not PC at all. But but that's what the article said. So I'll just go throw it out there. Has anyone ever done anything like that on their campus? Okay. No. Yeah. Totally.
No, I feel like that crosses a line. Like, I feel like that definitely crossed the line, and like I know I personally would not feel comfortable going up to someone. Like, if I hear someone who sounds like a girl that I went to camp with, I'll do something kind of like a segue and be like, "Oh my gosh, is your name Melissa?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Oh my god, you look just like my best camp friend." Like, and they're like, "What camp?" And then we'll kind of like start into the like, "Are you Jewish?" conversation. But I would never go up to someone like just because of facial. Like, I would, if someone came up to me like that, I would feel very personally offended, even if it's not like intended to be offended. I would personally be offended by that.
All right. Yeah, I'm totally on the same page as you. Yeah.
I don't I see people on campus who I'm like, that person is definitely Jewish, but I would never go up to them without any
other kind of information.
Right.
Okay. All right. Like, how'd you know I'm Jewish? Oh, curly hair.
Well, you could say like there is maybe a distinct like classic Jewish look, like considering the fact that on my campus there's like Black Jews, there's Asian Jews. It's kind of just like, to me, it's like you would like the people who come to our hell who are Jewish, they don't look classically Jewish. So like, why would I assume that other people who do look? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that there is an identifier physically for like. Yes, you could say like the curly hair for girls, but even so, like it's not a good, like they could just be Italian, like they don't have to be Jewish, you know?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Okay. Great. Okay. Fine. So we identified all the Jews on our campus. So now, what are we kind of spoke about this a little bit, but what are some like really good ways to begin the process of inviting these new Jews into the community?
I think really like the most important thing is creating personal connections. And I think we said this at the last meeting. It doesn't mean you have to make a personal connection with every single person. It just means somebody in your group, like somebody on the executive board or a regular, makes a connection. Because when people feel like they have friends at an event, like that's their motivation to go. So I think really creating that personal connection makes all of the difference.
Okay, so once you have that personal connection with them, then kind of just inviting them to anything, is that, or are there events that you would specifically invite them to above other events?
Well, when you say them, what do you mean?
I mean, I don't know. Like it does depend on the campus, but obviously, if there's a Jewish person you just met, and you thought it would be really great if they get involved in the Jewish community, you're not going to invite them to like a tech study, learning Gemara with everyone, probably, right? So is there like a boundary of like the events that you would invite them to? Or I mean, maybe you would invite them to a Gemara learning group, but
one thing that we say on my campus is that one thing that we say on my campus a lot is that our first ask should never be like a Shabbat dinner unless like they specifically reach out for it. That we want them to come to other events first. Not that like Shabbos is not important, but rather that sometimes it can feel really isolating when you walk in a room, especially at Halal when we get about 120 people for a Shabbat dinner every week, it can feel very intimidating when you feel like you don't know anyone, and if you're going with someone you don't really know very well. So we have a lot of like intramural teams here. So like for the boys, like getting them involved in like a basketball game is a great way. And then the guys in the team will kind of be like, oh yeah, like us and like Zeeb, like and the rest of like Zeebs are going to like Shabbat this week, like you should come. So it's kind of like the come hang out with us socially, come be our friends, and then like kind of the peer pressure influence of like now come to Shabbos. And that usually we have like an 85% success rate with that. So it usually works pretty well.
Okay, wow. So also kind of that same model of befriending someone and then inviting them to like informally getting close with someone and then formally inviting them to things.
Or like involving them in some sort of like activity, like whether it's halal, Chabad, or Aish, like there's always something that they'd be interested in, whether it's like a cooking class or like a speaker or like an arts and crafts night. Like there's always something that can get them their foot in the door first before we like kind of like push them to Shabbat.
Okay, great.
We kind of do it oppositely because generally we get like 30 or 40 people at Shabbat dinner.
Okay.
So it's a very like intimate event, and it's also most MIT students aren't on meal plans and it's free. So actually a lot of non-Jews come to Shabbat dinner, and it's for people who are meeting, like it's a good thing to say like, hey, like what are you doing for dinner Friday night? Like Hillel has free Shabbat dinner. It'd be great if you could like show up. And then people like there's like 5 or 6 tables, and they just sit down and people start chatting with them, and it's not overwhelming, and it's a good way to get people to start showing up to other things.
Okay, interesting. Do people ever feel like weird about befriending someone with the intentions of kind of inviting them to a Shabbat meal? Yeah, Toby?
It makes me feel like I'm an evangelical Christian.
Okay. Yeah, does anyone else feel like that also?
I wouldn't necessarily say like that, but it's like for us, we have like a whole list, like an Excel sheet essentially, and we have to go through and friend everybody, and then send that message. And you're like, okay, if they look at it, they look at it. If not, they don't. But then it's like, normally once they see that, even if they don't reach out to us because they're like, I don't know who you are, like, okay, our mutual friend is the rabbi, like, great, so you have something to do with it. But normally they'll reach out to the rabbi, and the rabbi will then reach out to us being like, oh, can one of you take this person or like meet up with them to bring them to Shabbat, because we don't normally do a lot of big events throughout the year. I mean, we'll have a few, but most of them are normally like central around holidays that are coming up and stuff like that. So it's a lot harder to like kind of do the more involved thing that Toby was talking about of that, but also our population's a lot smaller, so that's all a lot dependent on that. But it definitely is awkward sending that like friend request and then you wait, and if they accept, they accept. But yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else feel like that also? Evan's like, please, MIT, we do it all day long. I'm kidding. Okay, great. So we're getting close to the end of the hour here. So just a few last notes. So just to quickly summarize. So we kind of started speaking about more of the philosophical, theological reasons why to do outreach for the first half. And the second half, we kind of segued into this more practical discussion of how to go about finding the Jews to bring into your community, how to bring them into your community. Do you just invite them right away to a Shabbat meal? Do you become friends with them first? And beyond that, I'm sure as all of you can personally attest to on your campus, the world for how much you can involve them in or how much to push someone kind of is really broad. So I guess we can leave it at that, and I'll just leave everyone with the following. Semesters are almost over for most of us. It's kind of within the next month or so. It's pretty crazy. So I know things are going to get crazy. We usually do the third webinar right. We try to do it right after finals, like before you kind of go away, but also like finish so you're not like going crazy. But within the next month, maybe try to think about. I know a lot of you are doing it already, but try to think about running some kind of event that will bring more Jews in who haven't really been involved so far, or try to think about students who have peripherally maybe on the outskirts have been involved, and maybe think of new ways to involve them in the community. And if thing to say that, Toby, do you have something to say?
Oh no, sorry. I was just nodding along. I was agreeing with whatever you're saying.
Okay. So if no one else has anything to say, I think that's it for us now. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.